New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hello, my friends, and thank you for joining us for Spiritual Toolkit today. My name is Brock Ford, and I am your host, and joining me on the team is producer Peter Millar. The idea for this show came from my sincere desire to be of support and a voice for the disenfranchised, the struggling and hurting people within my reach, and to offer spiritual and ethical practices that help others transform their lives, relationships, and careers. And my hope is that we can support others on their path to their passion, their dreams and best life, building a bridge of understanding, healing, and thriving for all. So we will have guests from all walks of life talking about real life and navigating its twists and turns and living triumphantly. And with that said, I'm excited to introduce you to my dear friend, Robert Brzezinski, on the show today. Reverend Robert Brzezinski holds a master's degree in consciousness studies and a doctor of divinity. He's a lifelong student of transformational leadership, and his passion for the emerging interspiritual age, coupled with a thorough study of integral theory, serves Robert well in the creation of an authentic spiritual practice. He's also the founding minister and creative director of this show, y'all, New Thought Media Network. Robert is a dynamic spiritual leader, passionate firebrand speaker, which I'm going to ask him about that and what that is, because I'm not quite sure, as well as a personal coach and spiritual business consultant. His passions include growing up with his family, skiing, and mountain biking. Robert's central message is simple, y'all. He says, you can have the life you truly desire, and creating that life is a collaborative effort. No one can really go it alone because we're all in this love, he says, together. And y'all check out his website. It's revbrz.com, revbrz.com. So with that said, let's welcome Robert to Spiritual Toolkit.
Hello.
Hi, welcome, Robert. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have you join us today. It's an honor. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, and I'm really looking forward to getting to hang out here on the Spiritual Toolkit. So thanks for inviting me.
Well, you're welcome. And it's good to have you on this side versus always being on the other side, the production side. So thank you for allowing me to share your wonderfulness with all of our viewers. Absolutely. So why don't we get started a little bit about your family? Because I know you have a wonderful family. You talk about them a lot when I see you at association meetings and things like that. So tell us a little bit about your family and how they fit into your ministry.
Thank you. Yes. I haven't been asked this question in a while, and I thought about it as we were preparing that I've kind of lost track on how I describe us. But my wife and I met back in early 2000 in Brighton, Utah, of all places. As I was a ski instructor and she was trying out for ski school, and that's where we met. But then we found the New Thought philosophy, and we found religious science and the science of mind. And as we just developed our relationship and determined, hey, we think we can go the distance here, we were also both in agreement that we wanted to have 2 children, and 2 children would be enough. And so that's exactly what we have. And we have a unique experience. We are definitely squarely in the middle of the conversation around gender. We are squarely in the middle of the conversation around sexual identity. And so I have a college sophomore that goes by he, him pronouns, and his name is Reed, just over 18 years old. And then our youngest goes by the name of Duck and uses they, them pronouns. And then there is my wife, Lara, who is also a religious science practitioner, and not only the glue that holds the family together, but kind of the glue that holds me together sometimes too. And I count her as much of a spiritual leader in my ministry as in anything else. We really have created, over 20 years now, we really have created a very strong relationship and a strong partnership that goes along with it. So we are a mixed bag, but we have a lot of fun doing it.
Well, mixed bags are always fun to open and see what you get, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, thank you for
we thought we got something different than what we did, but over time we've discovered that we got exactly what was the right and proper and most beneficial thing for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. And when you know that, when you sit in the knowing that you're in the right place, doing the right thing with the right people, it's so affirming and fulfilling to know that and to be able to go forward knowing that you can do anything you want to do with your family. It's a cohesive unit. So thank you for sharing that. And I will get into a little bit later. I did put down some diversity questions to ask you that I had thought of, but I would like to get into that a little bit more as we get further into our conversation, if that's okay with you. Absolutely. Diversity is a huge part of my ministry as well. And I think you know that I've been doing diversity workshops across the Bay Area. So at any rate, let's go on. And I wanted to tell everyone, I met you at Affiliated New Thought Network conference about 2 years or 3 years ago, I believe it was. Yep. And I'll have to say this, Robert. I remember you used to stand up and ask a lot of questions. and I did not know who you were at that point. And I didn't know a lot of the people there except for the board of Anton. But at any rate, I remember you would stand up and you would give the most thoughtful, in-depth, educated, way beyond my brain words and information. And I'm like, who is this man? You know? And I remember going up to Reverend Sherry, because she's a dear friend of mine. And I'm like, do you know who that guy is that keeps talking? And she said, that's Robert Brzezinski. Do you not know him? And I'm like, no. And she's the one that introduced us to each other. But at any rate, I thought that you were so smart. I was afraid to be around you because you just came up with the most interesting subjects to talk about. So thank you for that.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for asking Reverend Sherry that important question. And thank you for not hiding behind that and for transcending and coming up and eventually saying hi. And because I'm really grateful we've gotten to know each other. And I can say much the same. We didn't know each other at that first conference, but I also saw you as someone that is helping to move New Thought forward, and asked intelligent questions, provided insightful responses and participation in the different things that were going on. And then last year at retreat, all that was just confirmed. And now this year you're on the network. So I'm pretty sure you're a pretty good guy.
Thank you. When Sherry got her show, I'm like, how did you do that? I want a show. She said, let me call Robert. So thank you, Robert, for giving me the show. It's been a huge blessing. But let's get back to what we were talking about. New Thought, Anton, Affiliated New Thought Network is where I met you. But I know that you just got back from Parliament of World Religions. Yes. I did not go, but a lot of my friends went. Can you give us just a little synopsis of what it was like to be there and what you brought back home with you from there?
No. I've been saying that to everybody that asks. It's a pretty in-depth answer to your question. So a little synopsis, no, but I'm happy to give you a synopsis.
Okay.
It's the Parliament. Originally, the Parliament was a one-time event, and it was a one-time event in 1893, and it actually took 100 years before somebody decided it was a good enough idea to do it again. Now, since that time, though the convenings, if you will, have become more often, more frequent. And I know that they shoot for between 3 to 5 years is what they try to do for each successive one. So it may be a 3-year gap before another one. It may be a 5-year gap before another one. But it is by far a demonstration of how far the interfaith ideal has come in, let's say, 150 years or so. If we go back, all right, so not quite that much, 130 years. If we go back to the very first 1893, that is what many consider to be the birth of modern day interfaith. Now, in my bio, you used that word interspiritual, which is, from my perspective, an even continuing growth or outpicturing of interfaith as well. However, the Parliament is very much that place where all of the world's religions, and some that are not quite yet world's religions, if you will, different spiritual paths, different ideas, different programs, where a vast majority of people come together. And I want you to know the first question when we meet each other is not, what religion are you?
What is it?
It's more about, hey, who are you?
Uh-huh.
How are you? What is important here for you? What are you learning here through this experience? So for a week, about 8,000 or so people every day got together to listen to speakers, to get into workshops, but mostly to connect on that human level and learn a bit more about what's working for you. And what's working for the people that believe like you do. And here's what works for the people that believe like I do. And over and over and over again, what we find is that we really are one. We really do believe much the same. Yes, there's some, we wear different robes and different stoles and we have different practices, but ultimately it all comes back to love. And it's a pretty amazing experience when 8,000 people are all gathered together and they're all loving each other up and in a place of exploration and an open willingness to learn more about those things that are outside my everyday purview and outside what we call the New Thought philosophy.
Thank you for sharing that. Just hearing that makes me want to go next year. So I'll try to make that or whenever it happens again.
Whenever it happens.
Whenever it happens again, I want to try to do that because my ministry is interfaith. I was ordained as an interfaith and also religious science, but I love the interfaith movement as well. And I think we all have something to offer out there to people. So
I've heard it said by numerous people in different ways. The first time you experience something, a big global event, let's say the Olympics, for a lot of people, they right then and there are like, I will never miss this again. I will be, no matter what it takes, I will never miss this again. And that is the experience I had at the Parliament, is I cannot see a valid reason to not participate, to not be a part of that conversation and that experience for the rest of my earthly days. If there's a Parliament the week before I go, I'll be there. And I think because again, it's just a deep, deep, rich experience of our oneness that reminds me, it gives me permission to be who I am. It gives me permission to give you permission to be who you are. And I think we are all lifted by the work and the consciousness that is brought forward at an event such as that.
I feel sort of the same way about Anton, Affiliated New Thought Network. They have become my family, and they are my go-to people, and they support me and encourage me, and they help me with my ministry. So I'm open to expanding when the Parliament comes back, but I'm very, very happy to be a part of Anton, and it's really an amazing thing to have a group of people. And sometimes it could be 5 people, 2 people, but with Anton, it's more like, 100 people that love you and support you. And when you're at the conference, people are just wanting to hug you and talk to you and love on you. It's an amazing experience.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
I would say absolutely. I tell this story often. The first time I walked into an Anton conference, not quite 2 years ago, the thing that resonated the most was, we are the people that say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've been around the block with organizations, both within New Thought and elsewhere, and in other things and in other aspects of my life, where organizations often say things, but for me, the proof is in the pudding. And what I know is Anton, in just 2 short years, has proven to me that holds true. As an organization, as individuals, that is one of the major rally cries I hear in ANTN is, we say yes. And then we figure out how to make that yes into a reality. Sometimes it takes a little while to go from the yes to the thing being real. I said yes to your program long before we were able to put it on the air. But we say yes, and then rely and rest, knowing that the divine, the universe, the one, God, Allah, Bada, whatever name you want to use for it, will align with that and bring forth the conditions and the opportunities and the resources to make that yes into a reality.
Exactly. And it happened for me and you at the perfect timing. So thank you for that. Thank you. So New Thought Media Network, y'all. That's what we want to talk about. Robert is a mogul, y'all. That's what I see him as in my head. But New Thought Media Network, let me just explain it to everyone, although they're already here and watching us and watching in the future as well. But New Thought Media Network is a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment. So, Robert, how did the idea?
We got to finish that.
Well, wait, that's all I got.
That's all you, because there's the third line, which is, and creating a world of love, peace, prosperity, and empowerment for all.
Oh, yes, sir. I think I have that further down. We'll mention it, but thank you for bringing it up here as well. But how did you come about the idea for this? How did this platform happen in your mind?
That's a great question. And I always like to remember when answering that question that it happened in the divine mind first. It was a reality in the mind of the one long before I started to catch this vision. And really, it is born out of a vision. And it's born out of a very unique set of circumstances. So to make this quick, because this is another hour-long answer if I let it be, the vision has been emerging through me and through my visioning and spiritual practices for years now. There were little glimpses of this back in 2008 and 2009 when I was in ministerial school. And I can go back and pull out my visioning notes from those times and see and find those glimmers, those pieces where this was starting to poke through. However, the expedient aspect of it all is that following things in my ministry in 2017 and 2018, I was rather disillusioned with this work and was driving Uber for a living. Really not all that happy about it, but didn't seem like there was anything going my way in the ministry at that time. And along the way, one late evening, I was trolling through the internet and I found an organization, live365.com, and it's internet radio. Now, I've watched a few different internet radio efforts happen within the New Thought movement over the years, and they all didn't lead to anything, or they were a great idea and a great effort, but eventually they closed their doors. And what I was looking for was really just a place to have access to all the amazing amount of New Thought music I have collected over the last, at that point, almost 20 years, and be able to access it quickly. And this program let that happen. Now, that kind of was a pet project, and it just, chugged along a little bit. If we fast forward to January of 2020, most of the world did not have any idea what was about to happen. And through a very unique set of circumstances, I was on the phone with my very first minister and teacher in the New Thought philosophy, and I was complaining a bit. I was pitching a fit, if you will, and being the astute leader and the teacher he is, he said, okay, here's what I want from you. I want you to do a 30-day visioning quest. Every single day for the next 30 days, you do the visioning practice, you use the visioning process, and you send me a picture of your notes. Mm-hmm. And if you miss a day in the next 30 days, then we're done. I'm not taking your phone calls.
Oh.
He knows how to motivate me, let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I began. And I began visioning, and every day I would take a half an hour, 40 minutes and sit in the practice, and I would take my notes and I'd take a quick picture of it and text it off to him. And in those 30 days, what emerged is really the outline of what this network, what this ministry is becoming and what it has become up to this point. So not knowing, again, still not knowing, we're at the end of January now, not really knowing what's about to come our way. At the same time, another friend offered me a lifetime discount to the StreamYard platform, which is the video studio broadcast platform we're using today. And I didn't do anything with that. And then the pandemic hit, and I realized what the world needed more than anything was prayer. And so on March 18th of 2020, I turned on that piece of software and hooked it up to my YouTube page and my Facebook page and did the first of our daily prayers. Real quickly realized that a morning prayer, one prayer a day wasn't going to be enough. And so I started doing prayers on my own, 8:15 a.m. and p.m. Mountain Time every day of the week. I did that by myself every day, twice a day for 3-4 months before I started enrolling a few people. And in that enrolling of a few people, what comes forward is that bigger vision for a full broadcast schedule. And we, my dear friend Reverend Elzia and I launched a Friday morning program where we talk about the news of the day, and that led to a couple more people. And I started to watch around Facebook, and I found a couple more people that were doing something similar and said, hey, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats. What if we do this together and save costs and share resources? And piece by piece by piece, what has come together is now a broadcast ministry of over 40 hours a week live on Facebook and YouTube. Our radio station is still available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can learn all about this at ntmedia.org. You can listen to the radio station there. Right now, we're in the process of putting the final touches on a community platform that we feel will be more beneficial and serve the New Thought movement a whole heck of a lot more than hanging out on Facebook and Instagram and all those doom scrolling things that we have out there these days. We're also in the process of building and getting ready to launch a Roku channel and other exciting things that are coming. So what emerged and what revealed itself through the visioning process continues to make itself, to demonstrate itself and make itself into form here in the world. And it's really all based on this spiritual practice. So I can't say that it's mine. I'm just the guy that's willing to hold on to the reins and try and stay on the bucking bronco for 8 seconds, if you will.
That takes me back to my Texas days.
Exactly.
Oh, well, Robert, thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for giving us a platform and that you had that vision and that you were open at the top, so to speak, to say yes.
Thank you.
So thank you, because how many people do you have on here now? Do you know?
I should, but I don't know off the top of my head.
I think it's like 40 people, 40 hosts or something like that. There's a lot.
Close to that, yeah. A number of hosts do double duty, and some people do just prayer time, and other people do meditations and other spiritual practice programs. But there's probably over 40 or 50 people at least that are working in some capacity, in some way, to be a part of this ministry. And we are affiliated with the Centers for Spiritual Living, so we are a completely legal 501c3 nonprofit. We maintain license. We oversee licenses for religious science practitioners within the CSL organization, as well as ministers. We've got a couple of staff ministers on staff now, and a handful of practitioners that are licensed with us. And we're growing.
Mhm.
We're not just a CSL ministry. We are here to break down those false beliefs in denominationalism. And that's why we're a
Amen.
part of ANTN, and that's why we're members of the International New Thought Alliance and the affiliated Global New Thought Network, AGNT, and all the various organizations. We look to build those bridges and those connections across the New Thought traditions, because here's the thing. New Thought is by far the most powerful philosophy I have ever found. It is transformative for everybody that I have ever seen get involved with this philosophy. It transforms our lives, and we often play small and have a sense of competition with other organizations and other schools that bring us to this New Thought realization, this New Thought philosophy. But if New Thought stands together behind one banner, or at least united across all of our banners, there's no question in my mind we are the ones that we have been waiting for and are changing the world.
Mm-hmm.
One heart, one mind at a time.
Exactly. And New Thought is the message of hope, y'all. New Thought is the message that we are capable and able, and we don't have to look out there for something, because it's all right here within us. Everything we need, it's all within us. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for giving me a platform to be able to go and do what my dream was, and to get my message out to as many people as possible. So thank you, Robert.
Mm-hmm.
And so you talked about your vision. So what is the vision that maybe you have for someone like me that's doing the show, the host of the show? What do you want your hosts and guests and viewers? What's the vision for them that you want?
Yes. I want everyone to be able to shine their light, and I want it to be easy. I've been in the entrepreneurial space my entire life. I never fit inside a cubicle, and the times I found myself there, I would get out as quick as I could. I've always been in the entrepreneurial space, and what I have seen over so many years is people get bogged down with the how to get it done, and in that, it's easy to lose sight of why we're getting it done. We're getting done. So whether it's someone that's bringing light to the unhoused population in our world, whether it's someone that's bringing light to LGBTQ issues, whether it's someone that's bringing light to the racial inequities that we see in our country and across the planet at this time, what I want to do is make it easy for creators and people such as yourself to share their message and not be bogged down with, does this thumbnail fit? And is this the right thumbnail for this show? And, oh my gosh, did I do this or did I do that? And what I've learned is oftentimes the skill set that makes a great show host is not the same as the skill set that makes a really good show producer or that makes a really good marketer. And those that are really good at marketing may not have the same skill set that makes someone really good at pastoral care. It doesn't mean that the person learned and versed in pastoral care is any more or less valuable than the person that is learned and has a history in the marketing department or the graphics design or video editing. And for far too long, it seemed to me that spiritual communities, from the day you walked in the door, the idea was donate what you know, volunteer what you know, so that you can reach these other places of enlightenment, of practitionering or ministering or whatever it might be. And that to me just feels like that's a kind of setup. That's it. I want to reach enlightenment with what I know. I want to be able to use my gifts and my skills and my talents to better humanity, not just because I happen to be good at marketing, but because I can bring the spiritual truth to the marketing. Or I can make my video editing a spiritual practice. And I've long believed, and I've had teachers tell me all along, if you ask me what my spiritual practice is, I'm going to tell you whatever's in front of me. And it's not a cop-out. That's how it needs to. We need to be able to take the events, the experiences, the chores in our life and make them part of our spiritual practice rather than set them aside as something I do after I'm done with my meditation.
Exactly.
Or before I'm allowed to go meditate, I got to do the dishes.
Mm-hmm. True. Robert, thank you for that. Everybody, it's about halfway mark into our show. So we're going to take about a 2 to 3 minute break. Peter's going to take us out in just a minute. And stay tuned. Don't go anywhere, y'all. Go get something to drink real quick and come right back to your chair. You don't want to miss anything that Robert is saying. So we'll be right back at New Thought Media Network. So stay tuned. All right. It looks like we're back, Robert, from the break. I hope everybody got to go to the bathroom, get something to drink, whatever you needed to do. So we've got about 25 minutes left of the show, and I've got so many things on my mind I want to ask you. So I'm going to skip over some of them, and I'm going to ask you this one real quick. You've got a warning label on your website that I saw when I was looking at your website. And I'm going to share with people what it says. And y'all, the warning says, unlocking your passions, purpose, and highest potential can lead to an awe-inspiring, spectacular, and deeply fulfilling life. All right, Robert, this sounds great. So how do we achieve that? And why do we not achieve that sometimes?
Well, the why we don't is often easy. And that is truly just fear. I was actually on a call with one of my coaching clients earlier today. And this is somebody that's been with me for a while. We have a pretty unique friendship as well as professional relationship. And what we got into was that most of us are conditioned from a very early point in our lives that either we're not good enough or that there isn't enough. We're programmed with limitations. Who are you to do that? You're not this, you're not that. You should be this, you should be that. And unraveling all of that conditioning can be a very, for some, painful journey. For some, it can be a very long journey. For some, it is a truly revelatory, awe-inspiring journey. But what I know happens is when we make that effort, when we step forward to meet the divine with an open heart, with an authentic consciousness of desire to give back to all of it, then the universe will move mountains. Mm-hmm. And so, and that in itself becomes scary. I've worked with so many clients that start to get what they want, start to see the benefit of these practices, start to see the proof of their practices. And that in itself can be scary as well. It kicks up that old programming. It kicks up those old belief systems, which really they show up so that we can recognize a greater truth of who we are. And that is that we are each absolutely vital to this thing called life. Mm-hmm. Now, Brock, you interview a lot of people. You've interviewed a number of people, and I know you have a whole list of people that you're interviewing, and not one of them is going to come on here and say the same thing the same way.
It's true.
But we are all saying much the same thing, just in our own way.
Mm-hmm. So, and with our own experiences that we bring to those words.
Exactly. So everyone is vital because we each bring a unique set of gifts and skills and talents to this thing called life. And together we get to really create the life. And I know this is in your list of questions as well, so I'll get right to it. We get to create the life we truly desire. Mm-hmm. Not the life that we've been led to believe we have to have or have to do in order to be successful, to be loved, to be successful or be loved.
Mm-hmm. And Robert, I know the word deserving. When I was younger, I remember being told, no, you can't do that. You can't go play with those people. You can't go to that school. You can't go and be an astronaut or whatever it was, because that's not who we are. That's not where we're from.
Right.
And it was defeating. And so the new thought message is that we are capable, we are able, and the universe is waiting on us to say yes, right?
Absolutely.
So it was difficult because I used to have a lot of feelings of inadequacy. Mm-hmm. And it was new thought that helped me overcome that. And now I can't shut myself up, but at any rate.
And I've heard countless parents say, well, we've got to teach our kids to be realistic. Not everybody can be an astronaut. Not everybody can be the president. And you're right. Not everybody can be. But I don't think that I get to make that judgment for my kid by limiting them. I believe our jobs as parents are to open the doors and help our children to see that anything is possible, but they've got to want it.
Exactly.
To desire that. And, again, humanity we're outgrowing our old limiting beliefs. In years past, if you were a doctor, you raised your kid to be a doctor. If you were a lawyer, you raised your kid to be a lawyer. If you were a butcher, you raised your kid to be a butcher. And now I think I know we are at that time where we get to raise our kids from that place of pure potentiality that says, you get to do you, and my job is to find a way to say, well, yes to that. Mm-hmm. And then we figure out together what's necessary to take it from consciousness to form.
Mm-hmm. I didn't grow up that way, but I'm glad that you are helping your children grow up that way. And since you're talking about children, I want to dive back a little bit, if it's okay.
Absolutely.
Back to the diversity part. When your son, which was your daughter, correct?
Correct.
originally. So when your trans son came to you and your wife and told you this, did you already know, or how did this come about that you found out, or how did this young child talk to you about that?
So he was 13 at the time. And this wasn't the child we expected we might have this conversation with.
Okay.
So it did sort of take my wife and I out of the blue, if you will, a little bit. And I think, and as I remember, we were both kind of sideways glancing, going, is this really what's supposed to be happening here? Is this really what's going on? And, but we also realized real quickly that it sounds a little cliche, but I'm going to do anything it takes to keep my son on the planet rather than lose a daughter.
Mm.
Now, I won't lie. At times it felt like I was losing something that I had spent 13 years imagining.
Mm-hmm.
I will never walk my daughter down the aisle. Mm-hmm. But that's my stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not fair for me to lay that on this other person, on my child. Mm-hmm. It's not fair for me. And that's what New Thought gave us. Mm-hmm. Now, if you subscribe to the belief that children pick their parents and that somewhere in the cosmic craziness of it all, that this divine soul said, I'll take those two, because somehow in all of it, they're going to find a way to support me through my own experience, then I don't think there's any greater honor than that. And as my youngest, identifying as non-binary, takes us into an even deeper level of that. So, knowing a little of your history as well, Brock, we can draw the continuum that at one point in our lives, you couldn't say gay.
Right.
Not that politicians didn't want us to, that's a whole nother episode, but that you just weren't allowed. It just wasn't done. And society, for the most part, said, no. We've transcended that limiting belief, I believe, in society.
For the most part, I think. For
the most part. But now we're facing it again with the idea of transgender, with what happens there. Mm-hmm. So obviously we haven't fully healed, because we're seeing the same discomfort, the same dis-ease. We're seeing the same sense of separation and division between the cisgender and the transgender that we saw between straight and gay. Mm-hmm. It's different. It's unique. But what I'm grateful for is this younger generation has learned, either directly or indirectly, not to allow themselves to be silenced, not to allow themselves to be pushed into a closet, not to hide who they truly are to make someone else feel at ease, or for someone else's, quote, sensibilities. Mm-hmm. The youth of today are more than willing, and I am more than willing to stand behind them in being out loud and proud of who they are, regardless of the labels that we might lay upon it. So it is unique. It is unique territory. It is in many ways uncharted territory for many. But we are the ones we've been waiting for. We've got to be the pioneers willing to go out there and say, listen, kids, we're with you and we'll stand behind you. I can't do it for you. I can't pretend to understand what you're going through, but I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to listen again, and I'm willing to keep listening until I can authentically stand up and speak the truth that I believe my kids would speak, knowing they have full providence to use their voice.
Robert, that I wish I could hug you right now, but you are the epitome of a parent that I hope all trans and gay children have. And that's not always the case. I was kicked out of my family when I came out at 22 and assaulted and all those things and had to flee town. But no one asked me questions, Robert. No one ever in my family asked a question about, how do you feel? Is this something new, or have you always felt this, or what is this about? No one asked a question. The fact that you are supporting and encouraging and asking those questions to your children is an amazing thing. And these children, matter of fact, 2 years ago when we were at Unity Village for the Anton Conference, I was in the midst of writing my first diversity workshop. It was called The Language and Understanding of Diversity. And I went to the Unity bookstore just to see if I could find some books on that, about what Unity thinks about LGBTQ and things of that nature. And when I walked in, and I'm 61, and I knew I was gay in second grade because I couldn't quit looking at the handsome blonde-headed Bobby Taylor who sat next to me. And I didn't know the word gay or anything like that, but I knew that I wasn't supposed to be watching him and looking at him. So at any rate, we all have that inherent knowingness of who we are. But anyway, I went into the little coffee bookstore at Unity Village, and there were two people behind the counter, and they were young people. And I walked in and I said, "Hi, ladies, how are y'all doing today?" And here I am teaching diversity, okay? Yep. All right. So we all learn every day.
You got the look, didn't you?
I walked in, I said, "Hey, ladies, how are y'all today?" And they both just sort of backed up and tilted their head and looked at me. And I said, "How you doing?" And they said, "Well, first of all, let us start with, we're not ladies." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry." And they said, "We're trans." And I went, "You know what? That's exactly why I'm in here. God led me in here because I needed to know y'all." And so there was nobody else in the bookstore that day at that moment. So they sat down. I said, "Would y'all have a conversation with me and help me understand more?" I said, "I've been gay for a long time. I'm 61 now, and I came out at 22. But I don't understand the trans thing. Can you help me understand?" We sat there for over an hour and a half, and They showed me some books, and these were like 16, 18-year-old kids. And it was amazing what they knew and how strong in their belief and that firm foundation that they had. I was just blown away. And to this day, we still email each other. But it's an amazing thing what the children these days know that I didn't know growing up. And things are changing a little bit, but we're still getting hurt. We're still getting kicked out. We're still getting laws written against us and all these types of things. So what we do from here is find more people like you and your wife and your family that we can sit down and have conversations and ask those questions. And maybe it was a surprise like it was with you. You thought maybe it was another child and not that child. But how do we ask those questions and sit down? How do you have the courage?
Can I chime in here for just a minute, if you don't mind?
Yeah, everybody. That's my producer, Peter Millar. Go ahead, Peter, real quick.
Hi. This is fascinating to me, Robert. And one of the things I think you're aware that Brock and I have worked on some diversity workshops together. I've helped with some research and structuring. And both Brock and I come from similar backgrounds. I'm a gay man as well. And so Brock and I know what it feels like on a real level to approach your parents or approach your loved ones and say, "I've got some big news for you."
Right.
But the workshops that we're working on, the whole seed that got this going, the genesis of it was parents at Brock's church who had their children come to them, like Brock and I went to our parents, are absolutely lost. And that's one thing that Brock and I can't empathize with. And so I guess I'm sort of putting you on the spot here and saying, if you were at Brock's church and someone said, "I am beside myself, my daughter has said this, and what does she mean? She's not a little girl anymore," and all that. I'm curious, and we don't have tons of time, but what sort of approach, where would you because you're a New Thought minister, so you've got some foundation there. And there are a lot of people who are not as advanced as you. And I'd love to hear what you think is the right approach so we can bring that into the workshops.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Peter.
And, you're very welcome.
I think the most powerful part of my teaching, my upbringing, my education in this New Thought philosophy is to ask powerful and open-ended questions. And then shut your mouth and listen for a while.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And not try to draw a correlation, not try to connect the dots, but to be in that place of saying, and you're both saying it, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, 5 years ago, I didn't know either. I knew it was a thing, but I didn't know how misgendering can be a microaggression that can be torturous
Mm-hmm.
for a preteen or early teenage, or even later in life. Misgendering as an inadvertent microaggression, but can be torturous.
Mm-hmm.
There is so much I didn't know, but the beauty is I have a great guide in my kids. So any parent that would come to me, the first piece of advice, if you will, that I would say is don't try to figure it out. This isn't about you. This is about them. This is not an accusation of your parenting. This is not a validation of your parenting. This is not about you whatsoever. It is about them. And the only way we're going to know how to support that person is to listen. Now, I could say that same correlation draws across any of our social ills right now. If someone came to me and said, my child is walking around wearing Black Lives Matter t-shirt and I don't know what that means or what to do with it, I would offer very much the same approach.
Mm-hmm.
Ask good open-ended questions that lead the person you're with to explore for themselves, and then listen, and then ask another open-ended question that it gives them permission to explore what they really believe, and in that they will tell you what it means.
Mm-hmm.
About 4 or 5 months ago, I actually had a minister come and ask me these same questions, and was embarrassed to admit that she didn't know, that she didn't have any idea, but she had an experience with a transgender teen that was so loving and so rich, and even felt there she couldn't ask these types of questions, and so approached me. And we had a great conversation for an hour or more. And when it all comes down to the one, we are all one. And so this person in front of me is a reflection of a piece of me. And if I don't understand what that reflection is showing me, then the only thing I really can do is ask questions and listen.
Exactly.
And then from there, we fall back into that, yeah, I'm on your side. What can I do to support you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Robert. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope that someone listening to this today or tomorrow or future down the road, that they see this show, because so many parents don't know what to do. And as Peter was telling you, there was a grandmother that came up to me at the Unity Church, and she said, my grandchild has come out as a girl and used to be a boy. And her son, the parent of the child, who is the lady's son, and that's her grandchild, she said, my son is beside himself and he's angry and he's fighting with the child. And he says, no, this is not happening in my house. And so she said, can you look up some scriptures and help me be able to talk to him, because he's very scripture oriented,
right,
about how I can help him understand to love his child and quit hating his child.
Yeah.
And this is what started the diversity. I wanted to do this 39 years ago when I came out and what happened to me. And funny, it took 30 years, but it was from the lady at the church coming up to me and saying, can you write something that can help us? And now it's turned into, I'm working on my third workshop, writing the third workshop. But at any rate,
before we run out of time, you just sparked something in me I want to make sure I share.
Sure.
This was in my educational, my ministerial education. And I have permission to tell the story, so I can use the names. Dr. Roger Teal would tell us a story that in his earliest days of ministry, as a brand new minister, his mentor, Reverend Dr. Fred Vogt, called him on a Saturday night. They were away at a conference, and Dr. Fred was to give the keynote the next day at this conference. And he called Dr. Roger late in the evening and said, I don't feel well. I have a sore throat. I think I have laryngitis. You have to go give the talk for me tomorrow. And being a new minister in front of a large national conference, he was a little nervous and actually said, what do I tell him? What do I tell him? I don't know what to tell him. What am I supposed to tell him? And Dr. Fred said, listen, all you got to do is go out there and tell them that you love them, that they are loved, and they are worthy of love. Hmm. And I would posit that is the perfect way to open any crucial conversation, to open any conversation where we're unsure or unclear, any conversation that might involve especially a family dynamic that could get contentious, to be able to say, look, I love you and you are worthy of love. And then let that lead the conversation.
Robert, that's amazing. Just those few little words. I love you and you are worthy of love. God bless you for putting that out there right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
And y'all, we're about to run out of time. I wish we had another hour, Robert. Will you come back and let's do some more another time, a couple months down the road? Thank you, because you are so interesting. I guess I'm going to let that be your last thought. Is there something else you'd like to have a last thought about?
I think that's I think that I had no plan to share that story coming in here this afternoon, but that's where Spirit has led us, and I think that should suffice for today.
And thank God for that. Thank you. So, well, y'all, we've come to the end of my show. Robert, I'm grateful for your participation in sharing such interesting and helpful information, and especially the last part as well. All of what you said today is something that can help people, and they can walk away today after your words and go forth and do something with that. So thank you to all of our viewers and subscribers as well. And join us next week when we go behind the scenes, actually, with someone that you actually met today a little bit, Peter Millar, my producer, to learn more about his life and work with doggies and about his service and involvement with me in Spiritual Toolkit. And y'all, Peter is, he's a very important person in my life. And he also edits all of my sermons. So I'll write my sermon and I'll give it to him. He makes me sound so much better and so much smarter than I am. But thank you, Peter, for being a part of all that I do as well. And join us for Peter's next week. But that's it for now. So please join us next week and check out all the wonderful and enlightening shows on New Thought Media Network. Robert's gone to a lot of effort to make sure that there's all kinds of shows up here for people. So there's something for everyone at ntmedia.org. And with that said, Robert, I love you. Thank you so much for being a part. Peter, thank you. Thank you, everybody that was with us today. Make sure to check out New Thought Media on ntmedia.org. Good night. Blessings. I love you.
Love you all. Bye now.
Bye, Robert. Thank you.